I'm Junab. I'm 51 years old and I was born in Sylhet, Bangladesh. It wasn't my decision to come to Swindon. It was our family's decision. In the late 70s and early 80s, our family had 34 takeaways and restaurants in 5 counties, and someone had to be responsible for the Wiltshire, Gloucestershire, and Berkshire area. So my parents moved to Wootton Bassett in 1978. I think we came in the winter of 78, and it was quite cold and bleak and smoggy. And I just thought to myself, where have we come to from bright, sunny country? So that was the feeling when we landed at Heathrow. So initially, we spent a few months in Birmingham, in Smallheath, and I think that's where my first recollection of being at school. It was like a nursery school, but it was only for about 6 months. Then we moved to Newbury for a couple of months again. And so it's totally different to what Birmingham was, because in Newbury we were the only non-white family that we knew of, and that was quite tough because of our cultural backgrounds and our religion. It was quite tough, but we quickly made friends at school, quickly friends with our neighbours, and it was okay. And then moved to Wootton Bassett, which is now Royal Wootton Bassett. That was after I left Wootton Bassett. And growing up as, the only family in those towns, and sometimes the only non-white person in the school, you were something different and rare, and there was quite a lot of racism and prejudice that we had to overcome, and I had to overcome. I think the nursery and primary school wasn't that bad. It was we had made quite a good close friends, but it was started at secondary school that the older students of the school, they thought, and seeing sometimes the only non-white person, it was quite tough. People swearing at you, taking, and saying things like, Gandhi. In those days it was Gandhi. Then he came Pakis, and I had, beer poured over my head in the school toilets. The sixth formers and class, you'd probably say 11 now, we used to say fifth form. They would just push you over, hit you, slap you, whatever. And found this school didn't take it that seriously in those days, like now. But to overcome all that, I had a gift because I was really good at sports. All round, you give me any sports, and I used to just, do really well at it. And it was through sports that I broke down all those prejudice and racism. To them, I was okay because I was good at sports, representing the school, representing the year, and winning 9 out of 10 times. So my first year at secondary school, end of the year, even the higher forms of the school, they all knew who I was, because I was the only non-white at the time at the secondary school, and because of representing my house at that year and then represent the school at various sports activities, they all got to know me and they thought I was part of them. And that's how throughout my life is breaking down those barriers with what is in common with us. I excelled at football, hockey, cricket, and athletics, short distance running, 100 meters, 200 meters, and long jump. It was quite hard because we were living in a town where we were the only non-white family in the town, and we didn't have close families like people in Birmingham and London and Manchester. We didn't have a purpose-built mosque in those days. There was one, but it's like in a house, and hardly anybody from our family used to go there, especially because I'm a Muslim, our family is a Muslim, so especially Fridays, is a very important day. But growing up, we didn't have that because we didn't have a mosque close by, and the mosque we did have in Swindon, and that was not accessible and easy to reach by everyone. So growing up, I would say we held on to the family culture, which was from Bangladesh and the Indian subcontinent, with your faith and your, food and cultural ways and things. So mainly we try to keep ourselves to ourselves rather than, broader integration with the rest of the community and our town, because we felt as like we are the outsiders and we don't belong here. We are just here, economic reasons. The family is here, and we should just, use the schools, the businesses, and whatever to the best of our abilities to, improve our economic and educational backgrounds. And that's how we were brought up initially. I felt there was a serious conflict because our home life and family life was totally different from the life I was growing up in the town and with the friends around me, because it's a totally different world. There's like you had birthday parties, you had going out, doing stuff, participating in sports, going to other towns, doing things which was not normal for our family and within the community, and that felt like a conflict. I can't do this or that because of our religion and our culture, but 99% of my friends, they were doing it, so I want to be part of that, do the things that they do. It was tough at times, but even with that in mind, our family did come to understanding, saying, right, we are here, and our children are facing this day in, day out. We can't, isolate them from it. So wasn't allowed out or do things all the time. It's like a once in a while, yeah, okay, after persisting and asking, to be allowed to go to parties or do things outside curriculums. Even in our culture and upbringing, there wasn't the aspiration for attaining, higher education or attaining, because in sports, becoming a sportsman, because I loved sports and I wasn't encouraged at all to step forward and go and do greater things, because I had hope and aspiration, those watching the Olympics and the world sports and footballs and cricket, that I want to be, footballer, or I want to be a cricketer, or I want to be, 100 meters runner in the Olympics or the World Championships or the Commonwealth or the European Championship. But that kind of hope and aspiration wasn't in the families, because for the family, we are here as an economic migrant. You just go and do your minimum and start work and go and help out in the family business. That's it. I was slowly getting, integrated as I was finishing my secondary education, because before I started my, first year of the GCSEs of the 2 years, I didn't have any hope and aspiration or go into higher education. And then looking at it, my cohorts, everybody, they had ambition, right? They're going to finish their GCSEs, go and do their A-levels and, become X, Y, and Z. And I thought, hey, I don't want to be possibly running my family business. I want what I want to do, what I love and I will enjoy to do. And so I wanted to study, deeply and, work quite hard to achieve a decent GCSE and the subjects I wanted to do. And there was no, hope expected of me that, and I was asked, what subject should I do? Do whatever you want to do. Because there wasn't any expectation that after the GCSEs, even if I done well, that I'll be getting straight working for the family. And first I accepted it, but as I said, as I started the GCSEs, and I said, no, why? Why can't I, go and do A-levels? Why can't I go to university, and better myself and, step up the ladder and be the first in my generation to acquire, a degree and more. And so, and it was quite hard. They thought I didn't understand where they were coming from, and they couldn't understand where I was coming from, because you all blow away, because like my other cousins and families and extended families, majority didn't have any expectation, because they didn't have higher education, so they didn't expect anything else from their siblings and children's and extended family.
And did you go to college and university?
I did go to college, Swindon College, to do A-levels. And I did have a place at university to read economics, but I took a year out and I got the University of Life degree instead. Yeah, in those days, growing up in the late 70s and 80s, yes, 9 out of 10 times, everybody who was marriageable age had to go back to India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, wherever the Indian subcontinent they were from. Doesn't matter which religion they were from, even if they were Muslims, Hindus, Sikhs, Christians, whatever. And yeah, so that was expected. But I accepted that to a certain extent, that okay, but it would not be like a forced marriage, because some of the extended family and friends, they were virtually forced, like you're marrying your cousin or you're marrying this and that. So fortunately, that didn't happen to me, although my marriage to my wife was like an arranged marriage, but it was up to us to decide. It wasn't forced upon us, and she was not my cousin or extended family. It's just how in the Asian community it works, where parents talk to other parents and relatives and community members, saying like, like give them a CV of, this is my son, we're looking for a bride, and the bride's side is the same for a bridegroom. And it was through those mutual friends and relatives that I met my wife. But both of us were from England. She was actually born and brought up in Manchester, and we met, but we wanted to have a wedding in Bangladesh. So I had a wedding in Bangladesh. And we've been married for nearly 30 years. So arranged marriage does work, not forced. So as a Muslim, I had to be, first I didn't understand, about pork and alcohol, but we knew we had to eat halal food. So we can eat meat, chicken, fish. Fish, it doesn't have to be halal. Fish is fine. It's meat and chicken. It has to be slaughtered and it has to be halal. So you couldn't eat anything like that. But it was very hard to come across halal meat and chickens those days, because in Swindon you didn't have the grocery shop until the early 80s. So we had to go to London once a month to get our halal meat and chicken and fish to last us a month or more, because all the family's restaurant, all the chicken and meat they had, it was not halal. So we would have had to just have vegetables. So because of that, we had to watch what we ate from, English places and things. But that's how I grew up on fish and chips, and to this day, probably after having the staple diet of the rice and curry, my next staple diet is fish and chips. Well, as a British Bangladeshis, we were going to Brick Lane, right, in Whitechapel and Aldgate East. Well, if I was lucky, I only would allowed to go there. Probably not everybody had cars. That's the problem those days. So depending how many people were traveling, and it has to be school holidays, otherwise wouldn't not been able to go. Whenever I looked forward to it, because it's the buzz when you get there. It's like, you got people from Bangladesh or India or Pakistan or wherever, and you just felt like, it's like another world. When you used to go to Aldgate and Whitechapel, you felt like you were in Bangladesh or India or Pakistan. So I used to get really buzz out of going there, and I used to love going there. And and then you come back to Wiltshire, Wootton Bassett, and you think, wow, we've got people in London, but we are, isolated and alone here in Wiltshire and in Wootton Bassett. Valuing, people to have, the freedom to be what they want to be. You have the freedom to educate yourself, freedom to do what work you want to do, and freedom to live your life to the full as what you want, with certain caveat. You got nothing holding you back. And every day as it passes, I truly believe that, despite all the things going on, despite, governments and media make it out to be, I think this country truly still today, if you have the will and if you have the hope and aspiration, you can be whatever you want to be. Doesn't matter your race, color, religion, and where you're from. I see myself as both, and I'm very proud of that. And I always say that I am very proud to be a British, Bangladeshi, and a Muslim, because you are what you are, because you cannot forget your roots and your heritage, because that's what makes you a strong and a better person, and that makes society a ever better place, because you can't hide that away. So I am both proud to be British, Bangladeshi, and a Muslim. What I have learnt growing up, nearly 45 years is we do not forget our past and our present and look forward to the future. Because if you forget your past, that's your heritage. And if you forget the present, where we are, and you need to look to the future. A lot of things have changed since being in this country since 1948, which I'm really happy and proud, but there's long way to go, especially, creating a just and equal society in all spheres of life, not just for the ethnic minority, for everyone in society. Well, it wasn't just my dad, it was the whole family. So in those days, the whole family would have shares, and each member would be running several, like in my family were. So obviously, when my father, my uncles and extended family came over here after the Second World War, it was mainly male. It wasn't female or like partners or wives. It was mainly male, because they first came over after the Second World War, when they were called, the British Empire calling all their previous empire people to come and help rebuild United Kingdom. So they came thinking they would be here for a few years, make some money, and then go back home. Open a big business and things. But obviously that didn't happen. The longer they stayed, they wanted to then stay permanently. So then slowly from, middle of 60s and early 70s, bringing over families, wives and children. And from that, so they were working mainly in factories, from woolen factories to, our family were mainly up in north in cotton factories. And then moving from that, they were to set up for all the people who were coming in new, not getting having enough jobs, as they got into catering. And for that catering, you needed, it was quite tough, you needed more people. So getting the families over, and then you having the children, as soon as they were able to help out, starting helping out in the restaurants. And that was same for me. I think I probably started helping out at the age of 10, 11, helping out, peel potatoes, onions, portering. So I understood how the family business was run. So I was helping out at the weekends, school holidays, and so that's how I got ingrained in my system how the restaurants and takeaways operate. And I was able to be a good cook. I can, take over, and if the chef wasn't available or who wasn't available to do the cookings and things later in life. So anyway, you felt part, because that was your family business, and you felt obliged and part of your family's restaurants and takeaways. So in that respect, it was nothing out of the ordinary. It was just part of family and part of life. A small town like Woodham Bassett, everybody knew everyone. So having our restaurants in the high street in Woodham Bassett, and then going to schools, so half of the kids, their parents used to come to our restaurants. So through that, so I came quite close to the kids. Your family owns the restaurant. My dad goes there, or my mum goes there, or our families go there. And through that, we came quite, close to the community of Wootton Bassett, and that helped, give me more confidence, and used to get. So if you did have any outsiders or somebody who didn't know us, be any, even in the restaurant, if they were abusive or out of order, those people would come to our aid and say, don't swear or don't say this or that, and immediately those behaving badly, they would shut up and be quiet, because they can see that we had become part of the community, part of the town, and they would not say or do anything contrary to that, because we had local support. Probably would say ever since I can remember that everybody, and especially in the early 80s, you had those days you were getting paid weekly, so Friday people have got paid Friday and Saturday. That was the nights. You had to have everybody hands on deck and many people as you can working in the restaurants, because the restaurant's going to be buzzing and really busy. And especially, I really hated this though, after the pub hours as well. You had the normal business before the pub closure, and after 11:30 in those days, everybody got kicked out of the pub, so everybody then jumped in to go and get a curry, and some of them would be too drunk and be abusive and rude, and what I couldn't understand is why the people serving, including my uncle and parent, is why they were taking the abuse. Because those days, late 70s and early 80s, the police would do nothing either. There was no race act or anything like that. So you'd get abuse and you just take it, on your chin and just move on. And rather than, swear back or confront them, you just like, oh, okay, thank you. And you just carry on. And over a number of years, for me, that was quite tough. It's like, I'm a human being, they're a human being. We're providing a service for them. And that's how it is. If they don't get a good service, they don't get good food, that's a different matter. But just because they come into an Indian restaurant, they think they can treat it like however they like, and could be abusive and rude to the serving staff, and including the owners. So that was quite hard for me to comprehend.